Hello, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for checking out my humble abode of a YouTube channel. I wanted to make a video about my favorite hobby, game design. I plan on making video essays talking about and studying game design philosophy in the future, but right now I thought I'd simply share the absolute joy of creating games. It's going to be a little rough around the edges, and it's going to get needlessly technical. But I'm hoping you'll still enjoy my attempt at becoming the Bob Ross of video games, no matter your interests or skill level. So, what are we going to be making today? I'm thinking I want to make something really evocative of childhood, with a good wholesome feeling of adventure and mischief. There's going to be no pressure with this video, or series if I'm getting ahead of myself. No plan for releasing a final product. I'm just enjoying the process, and I hope you will too. So I have a starting idea, which we won't get married to. We'll let the idea grow, evolve, and change as the process requires, and as our excited little hearts swell. But I'm thinking about a Slingshot game, where you're a kid collecting marbles. Yes. In VR, obviously, because I just think VR is dope, and I'm making this for me, my own happiness, and a little treat for my mental health. I have an idea for the story, but for now we'll just focus on getting started. So, first thing we need is a slingshot. We're going to take a look at the asset creation steps: sculpting, modeling, texturing, and rigging. There's no need for animation because I'm planning on the deformation of the slingshot to be procedural. Don't worry about what that means for now, it'll all come together in time. So you'll want to begin by finding some reference and having a good mental image of what you want your asset to look like. I'm using Sculptress, a free sculpting program, to start on the sculpting part of asset creation. Sculpting in 3D is very similar to real life, except you have infinite material, no happy little accidents, only Control-Z, and you exist in an endless void. Sculptress has tools to pull the sphere into shape, brushes to add detail, and oh, would you look at that? That looks like a happy little branch. Yes, it'll do nicely for a slingshot. But you can't use it as is. Sculptress generates triangulated meshes on the fly so you can focus on the simple pleasures of sculpting to your heart's content. But that means a metric ass load squared of polygons, which is computationally too heavy for a real-time application like a video game. So we're going to make a more reasonable model and bake the detail of the high poly model onto a low poly model. I'm using a plugin for Blender called Retopoflow to create a mesh on top of the sculpt. Blender is free and open source, and most things designed for it follow that principle. But always support your fellow artists if you have the capacity. But no pressure, follow your heart. Now that I have a model, sorry, am I going a little too fast? I'm going to import it into Maya to UV unwrap it, essentially cutting it up and laying it flat so we can apply textures onto it. It's okay to use whatever program lets you do the job in a way that makes you happy. No need for everything top of the line. As long as you're creating and having fun, there's no wrong answers. Now that we have nicer geometry, oh, and can't forget a little leather strip and elastic, I'm going to use a simple program called xNormals. Import high poly, import low poly, and bake for 2 to 3 minutes at medium-low heat. Oh, look at that. We created a normal map and an ambient occlusion map. I tried explaining how normal maps worked once. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I'll do a 24-hour live stream talking about optimization. Perfect! We're almost there. I used Blender again to start texturing with projection, and Photoshop to finish it off. Don't be afraid to jump from program to program to get the tools you want. And that's all I'm going to use for now. I want to see how this looks in Engine before overdoing it. So, back in Maya, create a few bones, tell them their jobs, and it's ready. Export to FBX, and done. I enjoy sculpting, modeling, and texturing, but sometimes I just want to get to the good stuff. I'm going to be using Unity because I know it well and I already have so many assets and plugins from past and current projects. After a calm and relaxing literal day of importing and setting up nearly 50 gigabytes of said assets, I'm excited to import what we just made. Plop that bad boy in there, make a material for it, and apply all textures. If you're still wondering how normal maps work, don't worry, it's simply magic. And oh my, look at it. Crude yet charming, filled with the essence of mischief we've been looking for. Makes you want to slap an acorn with 30 pounds of pressure towards an older sibling's noggin, doesn't it? No, just me? Okay. But something's not quite there yet. It's kinda dead still, and it doesn't even work yet. Let's work on that. First, I applied physics to the string bones using a plugin called Dynamic Bone. Oh my, whatever, that'll do for now. Next, I begin the journey of visual scripting with a plugin called Playmaker. It's just like normal coding, except without the syntax. It's simply a lifesaver for more visual artists like me who want to prototype quickly. Now hold on to your keyboards, it's going to get technical. Playmaker uses states, actions, and events to manage game logic. I started by adding a key press action from the right hand in the start/idle state of the slingshot to mimic pinching the leather strip. With proximity calculations, I check the distance between the strip and the right hand to see if I'm close enough to grab it, and cancel and return to the idle state if it's not. Next, I turn off the string and leather strip and start rendering a placeholder effect for the outstretched elastic. To give a nice bend to the slingshot, I get the resting position of the tip of the slingshot and the position of the right hand in space, and I lerp by 0.05. Essentially, I average the value of those two positions with a heavy bias towards the slingshot. Next, I apply that new position to the end of an inverse kinematic chain I applied to the slingshot using a plugin called Final IK. I realize maybe not much of this made any sense if you're unfamiliar with rigging and animation, but don't worry, for now it's only for look, not function, and I'll cover rigging and animation when we add characters to our little game. All of this to give the slingshot a little bend when it's pulled really far. Next, I'm going to play a looped sound I edited from Freesound. I'm going to use the distance of the right hand we calculated earlier to affect the pitch and calculate the speed for the volume. Yes, thinking this all works for me. Finally, in this state, we will check when the player releases the trigger to move on to the next state, where we will stop playing the stretching sound, reset the slingshot bend, and check the pull distance. If it wasn't pulled far enough, we'll cancel and reset the slingshot to its idle state. But if it was pulled far enough, we'll move on to the next state. I created an empty game object on the tip of the slingshot with a look at action to orient itself relative to the right hand. We can then use this empty object as a spawning point to create a simple test projectile. A sphere with a collider, rigid body, and trail rendering component. We'll save that new object in a variable, multiply the pull strength, and add that as a relative force to the test projectile. And that should mean we have a functioning slingshot. Do some cleanup and play a slapping sound, and it's starting to feel nice. The slingshot will be in the forefront of this game, so I wanted to assure it feels nice to use and is fun. Spend all the time you think you need to make sure you polish what you feel is important, but don't forget the "it's good enough" rule as the cornerstone of getting things done. Phew, let's take a little break from the technical stuff to talk about game design. In this example, we are making a slingshot game, so I want the slingshot to be fun, versatile, and memorable. I'm not expecting to create the next Master Sword, Mario's hat, or gravity gun, but I want to study and learn from what makes them so great. We'll use this thought to tackle the first real problem all VR games face, in my opinion: movement. It's a divided topic, like most things with no real good answers are. Some are of the opinion that teleportation is unrealistic, disorienting, and takes you out of the immersion. while others simply get sick when being smoothly moved around in virtual space. Let's try and solve this issue with our new favorite tool, the Slingshot. Oh yeah, I think that feels cool. We can make movement itself into a fun activity inspired by the main game mechanic while remaining thematic and grounded into what players could expect of a magical slingshot. Limitation breeds creativity, and know the rules to better break them. Don't worry, I'll cover what I did in the next video. This one's getting a little long, and I gotta keep you wanting more. In all, I spent a work week's worth of evenings prototyping this idea. I think this could have easily been accomplished within the confines of a game jam. If you want to create your own game, I encourage you to start by having a minimum viable product as a working prototype before anything else. Crude placeholders and crusty effects will do just fine. As long as you know you're going in a direction you are happy with, you can always polish later. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Hopefully, first of many. I hope you enjoyed this look into my favorite hobby. Next time, I'll either bring this prototype to a cleaner, more satisfying polish, or I'll be prototyping the next step in this adventure. This is a new channel, so I'll be looking at all your comments. Thank you for joining me, and remember, thought to reality is only a few clicks away.